Hello again, everybody. Joseph P. Farrell, yet another video blog. And just a reminder, I'm doing these more video blogs these next couple of weeks because I've had things come up rather suddenly that I need to tend to, and I won't have the time in the next couple of weeks to do my usual amount of written blogs. So I hope you like this format. If you do, give me a shout and let me know. In any case, yesterday I commented on an article in the Daily Bell that mentioned the tendency that's now growing in Italy for pension funds and so on and so forth to invest locally. In other words, they're taking the first steps necessary to going back to the lira as the Italian currency. And that, of course, if that idea spreads, and I think it will, if that idea spreads, this means that we're looking at the slow possible unraveling of the European Union. Well, there's another article from the Daily Bell, and this one I'm going to link on the website as well, on the website version of this scheduled blog. And the article is entitled, Germany Stands Athwart the European Crack-Up Shouting Stop. Okay? Or halt. And the article states at the very beginning, and I want to read this to you because I find this in a certain sense humorous, even though I'm certainly not trying to make light of the situation that many Europeans are in because of this basically bankster-driven and created crisis. But in any case, the article starts out by saying this, quote, in another article today, we discuss the impending dissolution of the Dutch government over the issue of European Union-imposed austerity. There is no social consensus in Holland currently to cut the deficit back to the 3% demanded. 4 or 5% is probably more in line with what's feasible, and it will take a change in euro policy to accomplish that. Monetary policy may have to change because Holland is not alone. Half of Europe is rebelling against austerity demands. But the countries have no latitude to lower rates and print more money, which is what they need to do to spread the pain. The entire system is corrupt and ought to be eliminated. Given time, it will likely eliminate itself. And unquote. And that's true. And what the article goes on to point out is that it's Germany, of course, which is the economic engine of the European Union, which has been arguing for all of these austerity and pushing, and so far quite successfully, for all these austerity measures in the other governments of Europe, in Greece and Italy, Spain, Portugal, and now it's spread to Holland, and eventually we're going to see it spread to France, and that's where the rubber is really going to hit the road, folks, because you can just see how Berlin dictating to Paris is going to go down. I think you can understand the history there, and, and why that may not work so well. So anyway, yes, Holland is now experiencing the same thing, and there's growing demands in Europe. And the demands are very simple, folks. We want our country back, and we want our country to run our country, and not Brussels to run our country as the front man for Frankfurt, okay? And that's essentially what's going on here. Now, I go back to something I pointed out in the Nazi International, and I've pointed out several times. Many people, the Daily Bell included, dispute the idea that it was ever a scheme or part of the planning of the post-war Nazis to have a kind of European federation which Germany would be able to dominate by, to quote Martin Bormann's phrase, elastic political means, all right, unquote. Now, whether or not it's true that they did or didn't, it doesn't matter. That's what's happened, okay? And that, you know, and it certainly seems to corroborate the thesis that maybe they did have that in mind. Well, the interesting thing is obviously Europe is beginning not to play ball. And as I pointed out yesterday, this is going to have some long-term political and geopolitical repercussions if this trend continues. If Germany is not able to keep the European Union together and to keep these austerity measures in place in other powers like Italy and Spain particularly, if Germany is unsuccessful in doing this, then you could easily see those nations going back to their national currencies, reclaiming their economic sovereignty, and that's going to force some real crucial geopolitical decisions in Berlin, in Paris, and in London. In Berlin, as I argued yesterday, I think it's inevitable that the German economy, being an export-driven economy, and a globally sized one at that, it's going to require Germany to pursue an energy policy that will give it relative security and keep its economy intact. And that means, inevitably, that Germany is going to have to turn to Russia, as it's already done, but will have to do so even more so to supply its energy needs. This is going to make Russian and German economic dominance of Eastern Europe even tighter than it is now. And I think as a result of that, you're going to see, if the European Union stays in place, it's going to be more or less a formality on paper that's preserved to keep up appearances. But the geopolitical reality is, as we've already seen, you've got the northern countries in Europe, meaning largely Germany, trying to dictate economic and monetary policy to the southern countries in the European Union, largely Greece and Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And eventually, I think this is going to come to encompass France as well. We've already seen rumblings in the news about problems in France. And if those problems develop, then it's going to be a whole different ballgame, because the Italian and Spanish economies, large though they are not nearly in the same geopolitical significance as the French economy. The French economy is a large economy, and France is a thermonuclear power. It's a major military power in the world. So that's going to be a very, very different story. And then we're going to see the real ball game begin, because I think you're going to see heightened tension, very heightened tension between Paris and London, or pardon me, between Paris and Berlin. And that's when you're going to see Germany start trying to distance itself even more definitely from the European Union. So kudos once again to the Daily Bell for pointing out that it's really Germany that's behind these austerity measures, and it's really Germany trying to hold the European Union together because it's in Germany's best interest. But as the situation is unfolding, folks, as we see, people in the rest of Europe are not too happy about the way things are being called in Frankfurt and Berlin. So that'll do my comments today. I'll see you on the flip side. Thank you for tuning into my little video blogs, folks. Please let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye. God bless.